Hi everyone, and a huge welcome to the third AccessAlts Zoom meet titled A Whole New World. Today we have with us a very special club member all the way from Saudi Arabia, Aysar Tayeb. Aysar heads up the Global Venture Program for Saudi Aramco and is probably one of the most influential institutional investors in the Middle East. Welcome, Aysar.
Aramco Venture was launched about the venture arm of Aramco. I just say the venture arm of Aramco. So Aramco has several investment arms. One is called Wasaya, which is the investment of the pension fund for Aramco, and then there is an investment company that owns Aramco's share in the joint ventures that Aramco starts and launches under new business development, and I'll talk about that later. And then there is Aramco Ventures. So Aramco Ventures has been around for a bit over 7 years. They started with a typical corporate VC program, a small 500 million allocation to invest in technologies that are relevant to the core operations of the company. And one of the conditions was that you must have a proponent from within the company. And the program had multiple objectives. Is you want to keep the company that very much at the forefront of technology in its own field and its own domain, which is something that Aramco takes great pride in. So that program started by really investing in technologies to support core operation. I'm talking about drill bits, flow valves that are uniquely designed to extract, to improve extraction, additives, etc. So all to support core operations. And then with time, they started going at different technologies that support services in Aramco. So we have the investments in cybersecurity, in 3D printing, amongst many others. So a couple of years ago, our board gave a new challenge and a new mandate to set up a new program that does everything that the first program doesn't do. So basically, to go out and be a VC player with a financial return objective, investing in all the other spaces that are not related to the core operations of the company. So, the world becomes a much bigger space. It's an interesting opportunity, but a very interesting challenge. Between fintech, between healthcare, between life sciences, between robotics, anything that is out there. But with a few conditions in the back of our mind is what is really scalable, what is really disruptive. So you have technologies that will be disruptive and that are disruptive. And then you have new business models that are disruptive and will continue to be disruptive. So if we take a look at the world top 10 market cap companies about 10 years ago, I think you're going to see that half of them are oil and gas companies. If you look at that same picture today, you'll see half of them are technology companies. So what happened? It's not like oil and gas companies' business changed or, other than the past couple of months, their revenue over the years didn't really change, up a bit or down a bit. But what happened is new businesses got created or new business models were so disruptive to some of the existing business models and new companies got created. The world sees Aramco or know Aramco as this giant oil and gas company, but the company is a lot more than that. So Aramco and its development is very much linked to the country's development. In the 1930s, when Aramco got formed, it was formed in a region that did not have much in terms of basic development and infrastructure. So the company created everything from scratch for its own employees and for its own people. So we're an oil and gas company that has and that owns and runs huge residential camps, and I'm talking camps. The largest one is in Dahran here. I think has I don't know, close to 4,000 or 5,000 housing units with over 15,000 people. This is kilometer by several kilometers by several kilometers camp. So its own camps, its own schools, its own healthcare systems, its own community centers, its own recreation centers, its own airline fleet, its own over 6,000 security force. So it's really a complete ecosystem. And if you begin to look at different technologies or different applications, you will hardly find something that does not touch our ecosystem one way or another. With that, you bring a lot of value to entrepreneurs in terms of the ability to pilot, the ability to register early revenue by becoming a customer, and then the ability and access to the market in Saudi with extension to the market in Middle East. Well, before I get into that, I mean, I just want to continue a little bit more on the program. So when we started, we said, okay, so we're after the big disruptors. We're after the big scalable businesses. So let's look at the entire world, and we looked at we've done analysis of VC investments across the entire world. We looked at startups that are making it to unicorn status and more. And then we decided, okay, we're going to set up 2 centers of operations, one in the US and one in China. Over the past, this is not over the past year or two, this is over the past 10 years, 5 to 10 years. What you see if you classify VC investments into, seed, early stage, and then growth, and then high growth, you will see that over the years, less and less money is going into seed and early stage, and more money is going into growth and super growth stages that were not there when the VC ecosystem was developed. Right. Because these are typically stages for PE investment. The venture capital is supposed to be, aiming at really helping entrepreneurs, come with new ideas and helping them build a business and pass the value of that, and then begin to grow. And then from there, they will take their business to public markets and continue to grow. Even pre-corona, we started seeing correction in the market. So I think the bubble is beginning to burst. I think what corona did now is actually accelerated the market correction. There will be a lot of flight for quality. A lot of the lower tier companies will be washed out. A lot of the lower tier VCs will be washed out from the market that really are just following the herd without any real fundamentals or market thesis of why they're investing and what their bigger aim. So all of that doesn't concern us at all, because the program is $1 billion program. Right. That we are running, and we are very patient capital. We don't have LPs that are chasing us, to bring in higher multiples. And our view on what we would like to follow and invest in becomes what is really impactful, not just in terms of financial growth, in terms of what it does, in terms of good to society. Another interesting observation that I think like to highlight is the difference that we saw between graduates of the VC ecosystem in China, Southeast Asia, and in the US.
I was going to ask you that, yes.
Yes, and I think we saw some clear distinction, maybe not across the board, but you can see clear distinction where you have the Bay Area, you have which is long on talent, long on financing, short on problems. So you end up with very expensive dog walking apps. And then you have, on the other hand, a high population in China that are facing real problems in Southeast Asia. So you end up with maybe less tech advanced, initially at least, but real problem solving situations and solutions that are addressing the masses. So we summarize it in that, we think the VC ecosystem in China, and by extension, its growth into Southeast Asia, is really solving for the bottom 5 billion. Right. Whereas you have an ecosystem in the other side of the world that is centered on deep tech and some niche solutions that are really solving for a very small fragment of society. From the experience of the company itself, so we have been, Aramco has been an operator in India for so many years in terms of supplying crude oil, and but I think, I'm being fully transparent here. Doing business in India is not easy. It has been challenging. We have been, as a company, as a corporate, trying to identify the right entry in terms into refining and chemicals for so many years. It took a while until we finally the bigger corporate decision was to come in through a JV with Reliance. Now, if I take this, and the main driver for that is how challenging the environment is in India, and it's not easy to navigate without a very strong local partner. So now, if I reflect this story to a tech ecosystem with massive great potential. I mean, we know that there is a lot of smart people in India that are working on an advanced tech solutions there. But again, how do you navigate the governance, where do you take the exits there? A lot of that is maturing, but still I don't have reached the maturity level that that we see, for example, in China, not without its own challenges as well there. One of the other challenges that we see in India is, and I could be wrong, is the speed and ability to scale up. So China is huge in terms of population, but India has the same scale in terms of population, but less homogeneous than in China. In China, everyone speaks, or almost everyone speaks the same language. So apps that are consumer friendly can spread so fast, probably a little bit faster than they can in India. So we have not, I have to admit, we have not taken a deep dive yet, but our early analysis of the market in India indicates that, okay, if we're going to go there, we need to be chaperoned by an experienced investor in India until we figure out the space, until we figure out where should we focus our attention, where can we make a bigger difference.
Great.
So we're in a unique situation. We're blessed with a young visionary leader that sees a lot more potential in Saudi and a lot more advantages in Saudi that can be capitalized on. This was the root of Vision 2030. Is Saudi has a very unique geographic location. They are at the intersection between East and West. We've blessed with abundant resources. We're a young population, so Saudi is I think 65% of the population are below 25. So we're a young, tech-savvy population. There are lots of resources that need to, that offer a lot more room for adding value. With that, a vision was created into, with very far-reaching, ambitious goals. And you all saw and read the different announcements, and then the different programs, and then the new cities, complete grassroots cities that are going to be built as sustainable, smart cities from the ground up. In its core, the vision is a vision of diversification. So, Saudi is heavily dependent on oil. So how can we leverage our oil revenues and all of that to help diversify our economy? And this gave great rise to our sovereign wealth fund, which took a whole new shape as a big investment arm for the country. PIF now is investing in technology to help diversify the economy. And they're investing in different business sectors to create new business sectors and sources of revenue. So tourism is a great example in terms of, and in order to implement it, there are so many government arms that are working in parallel. It's like a big symphony. The Saudi Center for Strategic Partnerships was one of those many arms. And its mandate was quite simple, is there are a few countries that have a very strong and deep and long relationship with Saudi Arabia. So how do we grow this relationship to be a strategic partnership along all pillars of what really a strategic partnership is? Security, defense, social and cultural, as well as economic. How do you change the business model from being a customer supplier to being a partner that we develop together, that we grow things together, that we co-develop and co-invest and bring some of these ideas into Saudi Arabia, capitalizing on the ample resources of cheaper energy, capitalizing on the location and all the other resources. And I give just for example, I give one example. So you see many Chinese companies, big manufacturing, with wanting to expand into Africa with a lot of caution about concerns related to stability, to governance, to which puts a bit of